Can you hear me? Hey, good, good. I'm trying to be excited here. My name is Kent. I don't know if you know me. I have a restaurant here in Cookeville, downtown area, called the Blue Pig. Next month, been open for about a year. So I'm a self-taught chef. I love to cook, always have. I grew up in Gainesboro, Tennessee, Whitleyville, Red Bowling Springs.
I'm sorry.
It's the best place ever. In fact, when I close on Sundays, I go straight to Jackson County. It's quiet, it's peaceful, it's beautiful, and I love it. That's where I first had my restaurant called Bite of the Bend. That's where I first got my start. And then this Cookeville opportunity opened up, and I opened up a place here called the Blue Pig. And the story is, I've lived in Africa, goodness, not a lot of my life. Grew up here, but lived in Africa maybe 8 years, on and off the last 12 years, doing humanitarian aid work. I've lived in India, Southeast Asia, doing a variety of humanitarian aid projects. And in that time, I've met all these other chefs around the world who I shared my passion of cooking, and they shared theirs with mine. So I've learned all these different recipes that we shared over time. So the story of barbecue is based on an identity of whether you're Kansas City or Texas or the Carolinas. You all have different regional flavors and influences of where you've grown up. The story of the Blue Pig is really my influences of meeting African chefs way out in the bush. In fact, waiting for rebels attacking. They will attack, and we'll have to schedule another time, or they will be attacking, and we're just cooking and having fun, and having a beer or two. So that is how the identity of the Blue Pig and the Bite of the Bend began. Today, my pan's getting a little smoking hot. That's what I need. Today, I want to talk to you about beef. At the Blue Pig, we do beef brisket. It's a USDA 2/3 choice or higher. We're known for our ribs and brisket. And while I have created great rubs and spices and sauces, the flavor and the tenderness of the meat is all in the quality you buy and you purchase. Most places buy commodity cuts or select cuts, and they're like a beef brisket be kind of tough, and that's what brisket's known as. It's very tough. But what I do, I've partnered with US Foods, and I've sourced their brand. They're the only certified Angus beef program, CAB, in the state of Tennessee. And what CAB makes it different, it has better marbling, which impacts tenderness, flavor, and I'll show you here in a second. Does anybody know different grades of beef? Like, there's USDA choice grades, there's select, choice, and prime. Well, CAB is from a black Angus cow. So genetically, has much better marbling than all other cows. Now there's different programs. There's a Braveheart program, different, distributors, food distributors have their own identity of programs. Just as there's Coke, there's Pepsi, there's Taco Bell, Burger King, McDonald's. There's all these different programs you've got to compare. It's been a year now. When you go to a new big restaurant like I have from Gainesboro and only had 40 seats to 120 seats, it's taken me a year now to find a good partner with me to help find source of my meats, source of my vegetable quality, and so far US Foods has been able to deliver for me. So what they have is they're partnered with the Certified Angus Beef brand, and it has 10 specifications, quality standards. Their cattle have to be predominantly a black hide, which is an Angus black hide. And again, genetically, as the saying, genetically, the black Angus has a much better flavor profile than all other cattle. And I want to cut into this ribeye roast because my favorite steak is the ribeye, and maybe it's also because I grew up in this area and just grew up on ribeye. I'm not a big fan of the filet mignon because while it's tender, it doesn't have the flavor. There's other good cuts, like the flank, that has a great flavor, maybe a little bit more tough, but has a good flavor profile as well. So there's different parts of the animal that has unique taste and tenderness. for me, the best balance is the ribeye. And here's a whole ribeye loin. It's a certified Angus beef. And I got the big knife. Just kind of open up in here. And I don't know, sometimes, you know, you can go to the store and you can get Angus beef. Again, it depends on who they've chosen to purchase from their distributors. In the store, you'll see Select, you'll see USDA Choice, but at one time I just bought USDA Choice until someone really showed me the difference between USDA Choice Angus and USDA Choice regular. With CAB, it's always upper 2/3 choice. Now USDA Prime, there's only 3% of cattle in the entire nation that reaches USDA Prime. So upper 2/3 choice guarantees you a higher quality near prime without that huge price. It is still a little bit more expensive, but much less than the cost of a prime grade. All right. Yes, yes, yes. You can find it like Kroger's, in fact, Sam's. Now I haven't tried, I noticed Sam's has gone to a different brand, an Angus brand. I haven't tried it yet. I've done it for a month or so. But they have some pretty good Black Angus CAB products. I've been quite impressed with, and they have pretty good marbling. And I'm going to try this. So this is the whole ribeye loin, and this is closer to the chuck side. So if you think about the cow, the head's over here, down here towards the tail, the hind quarter. This side is where the New York strip loins start. Down here is where the chuck starts. For me, like here, the eye is bigger. I'm sorry, it's smaller down here, but bigger here. The marbling gets a little bit more intense as you get closer to the chuck. In the center, of course, is the center cut ribeye. That's where a lot of cuts come from. Now, what I like to do, of course, I just put on a smoked prime rib for tonight before I came here. And I want to show you what I do for my smoked prime rib as an add-on. Of course, you got to trim away some of this fat. Another part of the program with CAB is that there's only less than an inch fat cap. So you don't have to trim as much. Other programs have a less fat cap, less than 3/4 inch, which is nice, but then it could also be inconsistent product, which I have run into. At least with CAB, it's more of a consistent product grade. So what I do, like for at least a smoked prime rib for sure, right? We all know that fat enhances the flavor. So what I do, let me get around here. You want to get around here to the tail, and you'll see what I mean. There's a tail here. See this fat cap? It runs all the way down through here. What I try to do is cut it at an angle. What I do for the smoked prime rib, you want to be careful not to cut away too much meat. You got to find it. Now you can save money by buying your own ribeye loin, but think about it, by the time you spend cutting it yourself and trimming away all the excess, a lot of times you're just better off having it pre-trimmed if you don't know exactly what you're doing. Again, you don't want to butcher the thing. cow. Now what I do, when I do my prime rib at the Blue Pig, I do trim away a lot of the fat, this cap up here. And for the purpose of this 30-minute presentation, I'm not going to be able to do it all. But what I do, I season it liberally with salt and pepper. And then I have my own secret, unique blend of spices that I put on it. But I think what makes it, even though you remove the fat cap, what I do on my smoke pit is I put it on the second or third shelf from the bottom, and then I put this fat cap above it. So it just drips on it. So you get a nice crust on the ribeye roast, but the fat cap being on top just drips down onto it and keeps it, adds more flavor. And then I put a pan underneath that, and then it just collects all the juices, and that's what I use as the au jus. All right, now I'm not going to cut up this entire thing. Let me get this pan back hot again. I hope this worked. I have not cooked a cast iron skillet on an electric stove in quite a while, so I'm hoping it's going to get hot, because you want it smoking hot. Get a little oil in there. What I'll do, this is pretty good marbling. I'm going to cut into this and show you. This is nice. So this is the strip end of the ribeye loin. You can see a lot of the nice marbling in here. Definitely a nice USDA grade of choice, upper 2/3. This is what you want to look for. You want to see that little bands of white fat in there. Not thick, but just kind of in throughout the muscle. I'm going to go cut on the chuck side. Now here you'll see how the eye, I'm in trouble here, how the eye is a bit smaller than the eye of the strip side. However, I'm trying to think of the name. I can't remember the name of this. A lot of this has a lot of intense flavor on this side of the ribeye, and it's one of my favorite parts. As you get towards the center cut of the ribeye, this eye is going to get a little bit bigger. My favorite part is maybe 3 to 5 cuts in this area from the chuck side. It's one of the best parts, in my opinion, to the ribeye loin. So, you guys have any questions about USDA grades or different brands of Angus? Yes?
Can you comment on grass-fed versus like corn-fed cattle?
Yeah, well, okay, I can.
If you feel it makes a difference.
I think corn-fed, it does make a difference. It helps with the fattening of the cow. In my experience, most grass-fed beef has more of a, I guess, a gamey taste, I guess. It depends on, what grains they're fed and all that. I like corn-fed, and if my mom was here, and I agree with her, you don't want GMO corn-fed cows. But I think corn-fed has a good balance, have better fat content. Oh yeah, that's smoking, good. Now the key with, and I'm showing you on a cast iron skillet, obviously because there's not a grill here. I used to be biased to this because I used to think the only way to grill a steak was on a grill outside. But no, the cast iron is, for me, my favorite way to have a steak. One, you get a nice crust on your steak, and you can put herbs and spices and ladle, and that's one thing I forgot with a spoon. I use my tongs here. Maybe that might work, or maybe there's a spoon back there. I'll cook this one up and I'll season it liberally with salt And I like to use a good coarse salt, like a kosher. And another key is a nice freshly ground peppercorn.
Is it better to cook your steak right out of the refrigerator? Or
No, you should let it rest a bit. You should let it get up to room temp, in my opinion. I don't want to say room temp, but I'll say let it sit out an hour. Ah, thank you so much. All right, let me get now. Again, the key is to have a good hot cast iron skillet. Let's see.
Do you recommend certain oil?
Oh yes, you need extra virgin olive oil or like a canola blend, because any oil with a low smoke point is going to get real smoky. All right, just kind of a nice little sizzle. Now there's so many people out there like, is it a constant flip or you just leave it and let it cook? I'm in the camp that you just kind of let it sit there and rest. And what I like to do also, I like to keep it basic, just salt, fresh ground pepper. In a minute I'm going to put a little garlic in here. You don't want to burn the garlic too much. And then I like to use thyme, fresh thyme. You put in there and then ladle after you put in the butter.
Do you do a rub on it? You rub it in?
No, with steaks, just salt and pepper.
How about the night before?
Nope.
So,
Nope.
salt and pepper?
Nope.
You don't have to do
Because I
that?
think if you go for a higher grade beef, you don't want to, any flavoring, you don't want to overpower the taste of the meat.
Right.
That's why I like to just be kind of basic in my choices. Also, if you season it too early, like the night before, the salts tend to draw out the moisture too much. And that's one thing I failed to do. And this steak was pretty dry. You want to put a dry steak in there. You might want to pat it with a paper towel before you put it in the skillet to help get a nice crust.
So
Just
you
wanna
want to
kinda-
keep it in the refrigerator
Oh, yeah.
all night to room temperature, then you won't have to leave it outside on the counter.
No, you do room temperature just for an hour even. Oh yeah, it's got a nice, getting a nice pretty crust. Let's see, yeah. Last time I did this, I didn't cook, so forgive my, if you guys have any questions, I'll try to answer them while I'm cooking.
When do you put the butter in?
I'm going to wait a minute. Some people put the butter in about now. I want the butter to brown to get a nutty taste, but I don't want it to be burnt. Because I think when you burn it, it just gives it too much of the flavor profile I'm not a big fan of. So I want to kind of wait a little bit.
So you mix the butter on, you put it on the steak or in the pan?
I'll put it in the pan and I'll show you right now. First I'm going to put in the garlic now. Put in some thyme. Huh? To cook it medium? What size? Sorry. Oh, time-wise? I do it by look and feel. I don't know if you can see here, I got a nice crust there. Now I'm going to add in the butter. Come down low.
So you add in the butter when the edges are crusty?
I'm sorry.
You add in the butter when the edges are crusty?
No. No, I just kind of of course now the butter's browning a little bit. You want to get that nice. I didn't bring any gloves with me, and then I just kind of baste. What I do is just kind of baste this butter. Then I get the garlic and just kind of rub on top. It's not gonna work. That's what I do. Of course, I have wood. You know how I tell when you ask about doneness? One way I tell is, you know, this is medium rare. I don't, you guys know this method? Medium rare, medium, well done. So I do it all by touch. And preferably, if you get a nice CAB, upper 2/3 choice to your prime steak, for me, it wants to be mid-rare, rare to mid-rare. You don't ever really want to go medium or well done. If you do that, you know, I would just go to get the cheapest steak out there.
That's all I eat is medium well.
Medium well, okay. Don't spend the money on, yeah, just do, because you lose all the flavor profiles and the benefits and the tenderness when you do medium well. So I would just get more like select grade or something like that.
It's got, as long as it's pink, I'm okay, but red, no.
Red. I love a little redness. Of course, I want to cut into this here. Of course, you want it to rest a bit. Of course, I'm not going to serve this because I touched it after that, and my spoon kind of melted in it. And you don't want that. I'm going to slice into this now. You always want to rest 5 minutes. I haven't looked at my time. I've got about 10, 15 more minutes.
It still keeps cooking.
Oh, yeah.
It still keeps cooking as you let it rest.
Yes, another 5 minutes, and also it rests because when you cut it too soon, all the juices pour out.
Right.
And, but yeah, I mean, that's, open it up. Could have gone a little bit longer, but I think it's perfect. That's a good mid-rare to blue right in the center with a beautiful crust. If you notice the crust and the nice mid-rare center. Again, you get out a hot skillet for that. Any questions? Sorry, I probably rambled on and just. Yes.
Do you do steaks like that in the restaurant?
If you come in and want it, I'll do it. It's just with a restaurant, I could do it in Gainesboro with only have 40 seats, but when I have 120 seats and I'm dependent on my other guys in the back, it takes a lot more skill and time to do it this way compared to a char grill. But if anybody, I'll love it this way, and I've told customers in the past, if you want it and I'm there, let the server know, and I'll cook it for you on a cast iron with fresh thyme and garlic and butter, because that's my favorite way.
So what's the best day to come where all 120 is not full?
No, Wednesday and Thursday nights. It's usually Friday and Saturdays. We're busy, thankfully, but come on a Wednesday and Thursday night when we're slower. That's the best time to get a nice steak and a nice enjoyable dinner. But on Friday and Saturday nights we get so busy, especially this summer with the patio opening up. We will be changing our menu in the next few weeks for a spring and summer menu. We're going to do a few less steaks, but focus more on seafood, shrimp dishes, things like that. Some nice smoked trouts and things like that for the summer. And crab cakes for the summertime. But we got some good steaks right now at the Blue Pig for the next couple of weeks. And I'm debating about keeping the good. I'll always have the smoked prime rib on Saturday nights. But I am looking at trying to keep the ribeye on the menu throughout the summer because it's my favorite cut of meat. Any other questions? Anyone else?
What are your hours of the restaurant?
They're weird because they're weird. I'm open Wednesday through Sunday. Right now I'm closed between 2 to 4 because our dinner menu is different than our lunch menu. So it gives my guys time to prep for dinner service. Next month will be a year open, so we're trying to be open all the time. We're going to try to do a Taco Tuesday and just open Tuesday through Sunday in the future. But right now it's Wednesday through Sunday. We do a great Sunday brunch. We're open until 3 o'clock on Sunday. But then Wednesday, we're open lunch and dinner, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.